Well, shalom, shalom. I'm Barbara, and I'm always short and sweet. Why does the Pope wear a fish hat? Dagon, the fish god, wears one just like that. So why is it shaped like a fish? We got to go back to the religion of Mystery Babylon and see that Dagon was shaped after a fish. He was the fish god. So here is the fish with the open mouth, and here is a mitre of a bishop, and here it is again, and this fish god was Dagon and the goddess Sybil. That's what it represented. So not to hurt anybody's feelings, it's from the Catholic Church, but just to, my purpose is just to expose the enemy and these signs and symbols, where they really come from, Mystery Babylon. Who was Dagon? Well, maybe you never heard of Dagon. Dagon was the chief deity of the Philistines and Babylonians. And the worship of Dagon went all the way back to Baal, and he was a fish god. He was supposed to be half man and half creature. So we see here the origin of the Pope's mitre from mythology, paganism, and sun worshiping. And for more information about the sun god worship, watch our previous videos, What is Sunrise Worship and Who is Tammuz? They'll tell you a lot about sun worship. So Dagon, the fish god of the Philistines and Babylonians, wore a fish hat. And we do see that today in the popes and bishops still in the world that we live in. So, but the Catholic Church wants you to believe that it's from the flames of fire at the time of Pentecost. That is the story that they give people. But you can really go back in history and learn a lot more. At the time of Nineveh, the priests wore a fish garment with the head and the scales, and that's what they wore as a sign of the fish god. So the high priest's mitre was nothing like the fish god the Pope wears. It was a turban. So it's not really representing the God of Israel. It's actually the mitre of Dagon. And the excavations of Nineveh, again, have put this beyond all possibility, that it is proven that the fish god of Dagon had hats and symbols just like this fish with the open mouth. So there's 3 places where Dagon is mentioned in the Bible. What does Elohim think about Dagon? Well, in Judges 16:23, he said he was the god of the Philistines, but there's 3 great stories in the scripture that tell how he defeated Dagon very easily because he is a living Elohim. There's a story of Samson, the Ark of the Covenant when it's stolen, and the King Saul story. So we know about Samson and how strong he was and everything, and how in the very end he tore down the temple of the Philistines, which was a temple of Dagon, because they had been sacrificing to Dagon and saying, you delivered Samson into our hands. But really, it was Elohim that destroyed more of the Philistines at the time of Samson's death and in his life, and he proved that the god of Dagon is just an idol. Then we have another story where they stole the Ark of the Covenant and put the Ark of Covenant right in the temple of Dagon. And the next morning, Dagon was on his face. And then the next day, they stood him up. And then the next day, his head and hands were cut off. So remember also that when they had the Ark of the Covenant, that they were plagued with the golden rats and the golden tumors, and they ended up sending them back on an ark to Israel and said, if it is the God of Israel causing all these plagues, that cart will go to Israel. And sure enough, it did. So Elohim defeated Dagon so easily because he is the creator. Dagon is just idol of stone. So also you might hear about the story of Dagon in the story of Jonah, but Dagon's never really mentioned, but we know that Jonah went to Nineveh. And Nineveh was a place where they worshiped the fish. And it's something that he was swallowed by a fish for 3 days. And the Ninevites, I think, were impressed by that. And the great thing is the Ninevites repented of their sins. And this is a great story for the kids, the Jonah story with the Veggie Tales. It's fun to watch. And really, that's when I first realized there were a fish god in Nineveh when I watched that with my grandchildren. So there is something very fishy about Western religion. We often see the Pope and various Catholic priests wearing a mitre hat, and that acts as a direct representative of Dagon, the god of the Philistines, and that's the Palestinians. So Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots, is being true to her Babylonian roots by showing that she has adopted the headdress of Dagon, the fish god. Originally, that was Nimrod, and the Dagon is the god of the Philistines in the Bible. So remember Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." So this is my purpose, to give you knowledge about the mitre hat, that it does come from Babylon. And I want to remind you there will be a whole bunch of links below, documentation and links where you can find this information and study it out for yourself. And remember Revelation 18 says, "Come out of her, my people." So his people are still in Babylon, and this is a call to come out. And please like this if it was a blessing to you, and please share it with your friends and family, your grandchildren. Maybe they don't know some of these great stories in Scripture. And please subscribe for more symbols about mystery religion. And remember, I'm short and sweet, and I'll see you back again next week, Yah willing. So thanks for watching, and please hit that little bell and subscribe so I can see you next week so you won't miss anything. Next week, we're going to talk some more about the symbols of the fish and Friday and where all those things came from.